Once you finish beginning Greek, the one thing that's going to hold you up primarily from reading the Greek New Testament, or rather the thing that's going to unlock the Greek New Testament for you, is the ability to learn the vocabulary you need to learn to be able to read it. And we recommend it that you learn to read New Testament book by book. So don't learn vocabulary by occurrence, learn vocabulary book by book, starting with the easiest books and going all the way through to the most challenging ones. We have a success path that's designed around this, but there's a pretty simple approach to doing it. Unfortunately, most people never actually get to that point where they are able to read even whole books of the New Testament in the original language. And the main reason why is that people get overwhelmed. They get overwhelmed by the sheer number of words there are to learn, or at least that's what they say. The actual reason is not so much that you get overwhelmed by the sheer number of words, but it really comes back down to the habits, the means by which you learn vocabulary. If you learn vocabulary, and there's a number of reasons. Let me just give you a bunch of reasons, 4 reasons why people find vocabulary overwhelming. Okay, and again, going back to what I said before, it's not that there's just too many words, it's the habits. The first one is that people try to learn too many words too quickly. Let's say you try to learn 10 words a day. You learn 10 words a day, you put that on spaced repetition, which allows you to take those words and take them from your short-term memory and then move them into your long-term memory so you don't forget them. And so by doing that, that allows you to learn the vocabulary. But as you do that, of course, you learn 10 words today, 10 words tomorrow, and you're incrementing the interval between reviews with every time you learn a new word. Now, the normal way of doing this means that you're going to be increasing the interval by a few minutes to start with, and then ultimately a few hours and a few days over time. But the problem is that in those early stages, the interval is not increasing very much. It's not increasing it from 2 hours to 2 days. It's increasing it from 2 hours to 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And so it's increasing slowly. And that means if you add too many words too quickly, not only are you learning those new words and reviewing those, but you're also reviewing all those previous words you've learned as well. So 10 words a day, 2 weeks, 140 words. That can mean that you're literally reviewing hundreds and hundreds of words every day because those intervals are still quite short, and that can become overwhelming pretty quickly. Another thing is that, and this is particularly once you go down the track and you've got a decent sized vocabulary, you can actually add vocabulary too quickly. You know, let's say you've got 2,000 words that you're reviewing regularly and you're adding 30 words every 4 days or something like that. Well, that can become overwhelming for exactly the same reason, is you've already got all these words you're reviewing, and then you're adding to that a whole bunch of words with a very short review interval, which means now that you're multiplying the amount of work you need to do per review or per day, which makes that task of reviewing, again, quite onerous on a day-by-day basis. So you want to be careful not to learn too many words all at once, and you want to be careful not to add too many words too quickly as well. Another reason people give up, because in addition to just having too many words to review today, is that some words are quite confusing. So there are particularly compound words, it seems, where you get those 2 words and they start with the same preposition, let's say, and they have similar meanings. And the ones that I have in mind for this, one that I often find is dia poreo, to be greatly perplexed, and dia tarasso, to confuse. And of course, these are both confusing forms by their lexeme, the meaning of the word. But in addition to that, they both have that dia on the front and they have a similar kind of meaning. And so I get those mixed up, especially if you switch the order of them and randomly see them in your vocabulary. And so these words can be quite challenging at times. And sometimes it's not just 2, you can get 3 or 4 words confused as well. And so you need to have a system to prevent you from going, oh my goodness, I'm just going backwards here. I feel like I'm actually losing this rather than gaining it. And reality is that it's normally just a handful of words that are going to be like this. But again, if you can take those words and identify them and work on them, that's going to help you. But if you don't, those confusing words will be frustrating for you, and they're going to lead you to want to give up your vocabulary pretty quickly. Another one is that it's very easy, even though I recommend that you learn and review your words 3 times every day, morning, lunch, and evening is kind of a good schedule to keep for it. If you do that, the number of words you have to review is going to maintain reasonably low. You'll get, maybe in the morning, you might wake up with 70 words or something like that. Spend 5 to 10 minutes going through those and you get through them. Lunchtime, you might have another 20, and then in the evening, maybe another 20 to do as well. That's pretty manageable. That's not that many words. But if you miss a day, well, now suddenly you've got 100 and something words to do. And of course, the problem with that is if you've got a lot of words and you're not, you've been learning them pretty quickly, then that number of words can be overwhelming again. And you end up waking up and you say, oh, there's 250 words there. Well, I have to wait until I've got half an hour to spend on that, or longer perhaps. It's going to take me some time. And of course, then you procrastinate actually reviewing those words. And eventually, and of course, that makes it worse because now you've got more words to review, which makes it even harder. And so it's easy to give up again. And so you want to have a strategy for avoiding these problems. Obviously, you want to add words. First of all, let's start with the first one of learning too many words too quickly. Don't learn too many words too quickly. Just pace yourself. And I don't even recommend necessarily that you add words on a set schedule here, like a set number of words every week. That will work, particularly going through beginning Greek. That's a piece of cake because you don't have very many words to learn. But I actually recommend that you take into account how you're going with the last set of words you learnt before you add new words, particularly if you've got a large vocabulary and you're trying to maintain that while you add new vocabulary as well. Make sure you know how you're getting on with that previous set of words before you start adding new ones. If you're still working through those regularly, like every day you're going through all those words still, don't add any more until you've got those so that they're really in a review interval that you're comfortable with. The second thing to do, of course, is that with those difficult words, as I mentioned, you want to identify those, separate them out, put them into their own deck and review them regularly so that this actually doesn't become one of those points of frustration for you, so that you're reviewing them more often, so that you're able to identify them easier, and so that they don't overwhelm you and you don't feel like you're getting nowhere. There are just some words that are more challenging to learn than others. You get confused with them. You see the same meaning and you think, isn't this word that other word? And you end up getting them mixed up. We all do that. It's just a fact of life. Unless you have an eidetic memory, in which case, well, you don't even need to be watching this video. The third thing, finally, is I want to encourage you to make sure you are regularly reviewing your vocabulary. If you do vocabulary intermittently, once every day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is, it's going to be more difficult for you to remember those words, and therefore you're going to get more words incorrect, and therefore that difficult words issue is going to become a bigger issue. And on top of that, you'll end up with these big sets of vocabulary to review, and of course that becomes overwhelming in and of itself. So regular review is critical to maintaining your momentum with your learning of the Greek New Testament. And all this means really that learning vocabulary is actually a discipline that you want to maintain over the long term. Now, over the last few months, I've actually been writing an app for our members so that they actually can learn vocabulary using an app that's going to work for them. And I've built tools into this app to ensure that you do not get overwhelmed with vocabulary and to ensure that you can add vocabulary at the right pace. So we solve these problems in this app. It's called BMA Tutor. It's available now. I'll give you more details in a minute and below this video. But there's a number of tools we've built into it. For instance, it's got what we call proactive pacing, and that is that we've built into it what we call a progression indicator. And this really tells you how you're progressing with your current set of vocabulary and gives you a progress indicator to add new words. And once that indicator gets to 100%, well, it's going to give you a button to say add new words. This means then that you have a set sort of interval between words before you add new ones, which prevents you from being overwhelmed. Now, the interval itself is actually customizable. We start you, depending on where you start, if you're in beginning Greek, we start you with about 12 hours. But if you're a little bit more advanced, we recommend an interval for you based on the number of words that you have inside your set of vocabulary. So if you've got 2,000 words, the interval is probably going to be 3 days. I have mine personally set to 5 days, which I find quite good. But again, you can set it to whatever you feel so inclined. We just give you a recommendation to help you pace yourself and not add too many words too quickly. Secondly, we want to reward you for being consistent. And so what we do is we actually include a habit tracker effectively inside of Tutor as well. We call these mastery points. And every day that you clear all of the vocabulary you've got due, you will be rewarded with a mastery point. It's just a simple little thing, but it's amazing how powerful that is to actually help you learn, keep going, and every day clear your vocabulary. Now, I would encourage you to do it more than once a day, but if you do it just once a day, it's going to keep you consistent. It's going to ensure that you're in the Greek New Testament at least once every day, and it's going to make this task far less overwhelming because your vocabulary is always, you're on top of it all the time. And on top of that, there's going to be other things that we do with this to make this even more rewarding going forward. Thirdly, we look after those difficult words for you. We know that these difficult words exist, that we all struggle with them, so we identify those automatically. If the ratio of reviews of a particular word, getting it correct, drops below 85%, we automatically add that to a difficult words list. Now, you can modify that 85%, but that's the default. And then you can just review those words more often. And in fact, we also have another setting you can turn on, which will actually reduce the interval for those words right back down. Basically, it halves them, or more than halves them, it reduces it down to near 2 hours, which is what we start with. And then that means that that word's going to come up far more regularly in your vocabulary anyway, which means you're going to review it more often, which means you're going to master it easier, which means you're not going to get it confused as anywhere near as easily as you would otherwise. So that's the difficult words. And then just in case, the last thing we have is just in case you do skip a day and you do miss your mastery point, we do have a max due words threshold. When you get to a point, let's say your max due words threshold is 50 words, right? I think the default is 100, but you can set it down as low as 50 words. If you log in one morning and you've got more than 50 words, Tutor is going to ask you, do you want me to push these words back, or would you like to review them? If you say to push back the due dates for them, then it's going to adjust the due dates for all your upcoming vocabulary so that you only have 50 words available to review right now. And then the others will just carry on the same schedule that they've already been on. It all is taken care of for you. And this means that even if you do get behind, even if the rewards don't keep you going, even if you do get frustrated with difficult words and you skip a day or whatever it happens to be, life gets in the way sometimes, this ensures that it's easy to carry on. You don't have to feel, oh my goodness, I've got this big task just to catch up again. So that's how we help you inside of BMA Tutor. And it's not just any one of those things. It's really all of those things together that makes this such a powerful tool. You're rewarded on the front end, motivated to clear your vocabulary every day. We pace you so that you don't get overwhelmed. And then on top of that, we isolate out those difficult words. And then if you do get behind, we make sure we manage that for you as well. So if you are interested in a great little app that works on any device, mobile device, desktop device, it's a progressive web app, it'll work anywhere, check it out at bma.to/get started. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What do you find challenging, hard about vocabulary acquisition, and where are you at in your journey? Leave a comment below this video. I look forward to hearing from you there. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.